Dragon's Dogma 2 shouldn't work. The writing is average, fetch quests abound, combat's fairly easy, and there's an Assassin's Creed level of loot chests. And yet, it's pretty fun. It's like Elden Ring had a baby with Dragon Age. You can run around fighting mythical beasts in your underpants, your companions high-five you after a successful battle, and sometimes you inexplicably find a giant poo. But a disappointingly capped vocation system combined with repetitive combat prevents this game from ever becoming challenging. Its bizarre ending lets down what is otherwise a solid RPG. With over 40 hours in Dragon's Dogma 2, I've completed the main quest alongside the secret ending, and yet I'm not completely sure what the plot of Dragon's Dogma 2 actually is. You're the former ruler of Vermund, throne taken by ambitious usurpers. You're also the Arisen, a mysterious chosen one picked by a dragon to have special powers. This gives you the ability to command pawns, although it's never clearly explained what the pawns are or where they come from, nor are the dragons really. Despite relying on fantasy tropes, the game was at its best when I thought it was a tale of good versus evil. I was here for a classic fantasy story, playing a hero taking back my throne as the rightful ruler. Cliché, yes, but very enjoyable. So while this review is spoiler-free, the ending unravels a lot of good things the game had built up in the first 3 quarters of play, taking the story in an unexpected direction. Instead of feeling satisfied I'd saved the kingdom, I was left wondering what I just experienced. The main questline is surprisingly quick. The ending sneaks up on you so fast you don't even know you're there until you're wondering why the credits are rolling just when the game got going. This sideswipe of an ending points to a major narrative issue in Dragon's Dogma 2. The whole storyline feels flat in structure. The game doesn't build up to epic moments or major boss battles to mark key points, apart from one odd fight towards the end. This flatness perpetuates the game. NPCs seem rather nonplussed whatever you do, unless you're wandering around town with your weapons drawn. You spend most of it as the Arisen, hiding out from the usurpers, helping the lowly citizens of your kingdom. But at the same time, nobody cares you're walking around downtown Vermund with your pawns, and most people recognize you as the Arisen. Part of Dragon's Dogma 2's humour relies on this silliness. I mean, your key agitator is a bloke who spends more time in the pub than actually doing his guard duties. The next in line to the throne through his mother's machinations is so helpful it hurts. And the main villain comes straight out of villain school TM, complete with nefarious facial hair and long purple sleeves. So much of this game and its story is missable. The effort put into signposting quests is wildly inconsistent. In one case, 4 NPCs told me about the same quest along the road to Bakbatal. In others, I found I'd missed meeting key characters just for not going far enough into a building. If I was going to play Dragon's Dogma 2 again, I would have spent a lot more time exploring this world. A lot of the information needed to play the game isn't actually presented within the game. So much of my knowledge of what to do next came from helpful people in my stream chat, which was nice and social, but the game probably should be giving me a few pointers. Many times I was lost finding quest markers, and I mean, don't even mention the hours I spent running around trying to figure out where to plant a seed, only to realize that I'd simply missed a narrow window of pixels. Which is such a shame because part of me really likes Dragon's Dogma 2. Apart from the story, the gameplay leaves something to be desired. It's too easy. Part of this has to do with the lack of synergy between team skills and vocations, and another part of it that the attacks develop little further than the base level skills, and that there aren't a huge amount of combinations to be performed in the game. It's as if you're fighting enemies with a bunch of individuals rather than working with your pawns to build an attack. You'll find yourself spamming the same repetitive attacks, which can get quite boring. On the surface level, the system of vocations opens up some interesting classes beyond your traditional thief, magic caster, and fighter, but a lot of the gameplay issues stem from this system, which caps growth in a class to 10 proficiency levels. Once you reach level 10 in a vocation, it's time to start again in another. The only benefits you transfer from classes are augments, which boost various stats and attributes. The Warfarer class goes some way to building on the skills you've learned across the classes, but you only get this fairly late in the game, making the vocation more beneficial in a New Game Plus run. Granted, there are parts of combat which are hysterically funny, like kicking enemies and throwing them around or grabbing onto them and holding on as they shoot into the sky, and it's brilliant when one battle bleeds into another. Simultaneously fighting a griffin, an ogre, and a giant wolf in a canyon was one of the best combat experiences I had. But often you'll do the same old attacks while trying to whittle down the never-ending health bar of larger creatures. Even the endgame drakes, dragons, and serpents don't progress to a second or third stage. Dragon Dogma 2 needs very little combat strategy, which might frustrate those of us who prefer strategic RPGs. You'll end up in quite a few of these combat encounters because you have to walk almost everywhere in Dragon's Dogma 2. Look, I've complained previously that fast travel makes hardcore games too easy, but here it's taken to the other extreme. There are only a couple of fast travel points in the enormous map, and it's up to you to place port crystals at convenient locations, all the while not knowing what a convenient location is because of the lack of in-game explanations. The only other way to get around the world is by the Oxcart system. Read Fantasy Bus Network. The cart system is not always in operation, and when it is, you'll be waylaid on the road as you're dozing off by various enemies. If the beast that's pulling the cart gets killed, you're walking to the next town, and it's both funny and frustrating. These combat encounters, like many of the others in the game, get a bit samey with goblins, wolves, and ogres common on the fantasy road. There's plenty to explore along the way in this often beautiful world, including a plethora of caves, but there's not a huge motivation to explore these outside of side quests. Attaching some level of lore or story to each area would have given more meaning to the larger world. And again, it is there in parts. Sometimes it's overdone and other times it's underdone, and there's not a medium balance between the two. Should you play Dragon's Dogma 2? Yes? With the caveat, buy it on sale when you've exhausted your back catalogue of better RPGs, or if you're sick of getting potatoed by the Elden Ring DLC and need some wins on the board. At its best, it's endearing and often hilarious. At its worst, the simplistic combat system, character builds, and wacky ending undermine the good to be found here. I'm Kat Clay, I'm an Australian game reviewer and writer. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button, and thanks for watching.